This is a video of our house from across the street, from the right side, right border, front yard, walkway to front door, driveway, and to the left of the driveway with a bunch of ginkgo trees. First thing to show you is there is a long row of star jasmine bushes in the front of the house, next to the fence, encroaching on the sidewalk. When the blossoms are spent on these bushes, they need to be cut back to the edge of the sidewalk. They're almost completely spent now, so that can be done right away. And then later in the year, late fall, cut back again if they start to encroach too much on the sidewalk. Shouldn't be more than a couple of inches over the sidewalk, otherwise the neighbors complain. Okay, I'm going to enter the front yard, and we'll start with the right hand corner in front. Okay, I have this plant. I don't remember the name of it. It's got yellow flowers. It's quite common. Please deadhead the flowers. Cut them back at the base of the stem to the extent possible, because the stems are ugly. Here we have a rather large rose bush. Like all of the roses, the dead bulbs need to be cut off. Cut them back farther down the stem to a point where the stems are sturdy enough to support new growth. And please always cut just above a new bud, ideally a bud that's facing outward, so it creates a nice shape for the rose bush. I have an agapanthus in the front. Agapanthus, the flowers need to be cut back at the base of the stem once they are withered, and dead leaves at the base cleared away. I have several what are these called? Sea lavenders. Sea lavender bushes, status. When the stalks, the blue flowers have withered, the stalks need to be cut back at the base. But the hard part, but important part, is at the base, any of the leaves that are dead underneath need to be cleared away. It's quite a chore, but it needs to be done to keep it clean. What else do we have? I have several blue fescue scattered around the front yard. Please pull away the dead spikes from the base and as much as possible, and leave room for new growth. I have a few, 3 or 4 large willow bushes in the front yard. The only maintenance on these is to cut them back to about 1.5 feet off the ground in the middle of the winter, so they can have new growth sprouting up in the spring. Otherwise, no maintenance except maybe clear away some of the dead, dead short branches at the base. The front yard, we have 1, 2, 3 large red leaf Japanese maples. No maintenance necessary except to gather and remove the fallen dead leaves. We also have a large regular maple, I think it is, or oak tree. Same thing, just no maintenance except remove fallen dead leaves. In the front yard, I have several verbena plants in the ground as ground cover. I like to have these deadheaded as much as possible, and then every 2 or 3 months cut back about 6 inches around the outside, maybe even a little more, to stimulate new growth. I have several red begonias alongside the fence in the front yard. Just keep them clean, cut back occasionally when there's some dead growth to encourage new growth. And if one of them gets to be a little bit too large compared to the others, cut it back so they look as uniform as possible. What else do we have in the front? I have 2 dogwoods, no maintenance necessary. Okay, let's go back to the front of the house. Next to the rose bush, I have 2 large and 1 small, I'll call them daisy bushes. They have little white daisy-like flowers. They were all 3 the same size, but one of them died, so I had to replace it with a new one on the right. These will become covered with flowers during the year. When all of those flowers are spent, just shear them all off and leave the green like this for new growth. In front of them, I have a patch of about 9 gazanias, yellow gazanias. They need to be deadheaded, the spent flowers clipped off at the base of the stem. Okay, let's go to the walkway. At the front of the walkway, I have coreopsis, yellow coreopsis. Flowers need to be deadheaded. If there are only a few, like in this case, it'd be great if you could deadhead the dead flowers, pluck them off, snip them off at the base of their stem. But if the plant is almost entirely spent, then just wait until all the flowers are dead and shear them all off. I have 2 large pots of geraniums, pink or peach colored geraniums. These need to be cleaned regularly. The dead spikes clipped off at the base. If you see any dead branches, clip those off also to encourage new growth. Let's see. I have these plants. These are yellow green. I don't know what the name of them is, but they're prolific growers. They grow very fast. You need to trim them regularly to keep them compact and from spreading into the other plants that are surrounding them. So keep those as compact as possible. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 patches of brilliant red petunias. They're called super petunias because they're monsters. You're looking at just one plant. These guys grow a lot. Every 2 or 3 months they need to be cut back and because they've spread too far, and also to encourage new growth. And when you cut them back, lift underneath and try to cut away as much of the dead wood as possible. What else do we have? Okay, I've talked about those. Near the house, I may have some plants in pots in the front. If I do have them in pots, deadhead any of the dead flowers. I have 4 mini rose bushes in front of the house. Clip away any of the dead bulbs. Don't worry so much about whether they are clipped right or above a new bud, because these are pretty prolific. They'll grow back easily. I do have some flowers in pots in the front. Deadhead the dead flowers at the base of their stem. Don't just pluck them off by hand. Please cut them at the base, otherwise an ugly stem remains. I have these guys in pots in the front, 4 of them. No maintenance required. Got a little beginning impatiens in the front. Clean off any of the dead bulbs, the dead flowers. If you pass by, make sure you pluck off the little nub that goes with it, otherwise too much of the energy of the plant goes into those little knobs. Okay, across the driveway, almost forgot. At the front left of the house is a giant pink fairy rose bush. Like the other rose bushes, it needs to be deadheaded. Cut back on the stems. Don't worry about so much finding a place where there's a new bulb. But the other thing is that it has suckers. Go underneath and clip off the suckers at the base of the plant. On the other side of the driveway, I have 4 yellow gazanias in front. Right now you only see 2 because the other 2 have died. I need to replace them. They need to be deadheaded regularly. Along this side, several rose bushes. I've already talked about trimming back the rose bushes to get rid of dead flowers, down to a place on the stem where it's nice and thick to support new growth, and it's just above a bud. I have 6 potted plants in front, red geraniums with white carnations. They need to be deadheaded, and likewise both the geraniums and the carnations, and pluck off any dead leaves in the geraniums. Okay, against the fence I have several coral bell or euchra up against the fence. The dead spikes that once they've withered, those need to be cut off or plucked off, and any dead leaves, please clip them off and remove them. Okay, now we're going to the backyard. The walkway to the backyard, we have a large number of star jasmine on the left side of the walkway. Like in the front, when the blossoms are all spent, these need to be cut back. And also maybe again later in the year, if the vines grow too much into the walkway, and impede the amount of space here to walk by. I have a large vine on the right up against the garage. You need to trim away any vines that encroach too much into the garage, into the eaves on the top, or onto the wall over here. Just cut them off. Also, any that stick out in the way of the walkway here. Okay, in the back I have 3 large orchid potted plants. Please trim off any dead leaves and remove them. I have a bunch of these guys. I think these are Bacopa or Calibracoa, one of the two, along the back fence. No maintenance necessary. Likewise with the impatiens in the planter box here, no maintenance necessary. I do have a couple of zonal geraniums in the front in pots. The spent flowers, like these guys, need to be cut off at the base. I have I forget what this is called. You see any dead leaves or dead flower stems, cut those off. Yes, okay. Now I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 potted cactus. And the maintenance here is to reach underneath and pluck off and remove any of the dead leaves underneath and keep them clean. Okay, I also have some zonal geraniums in pots against the fence, 3 of them. Remove any dead stems at the base of the stem and any dead leaves or dying leaves that you see. Begonias, have a lot of begonias in the backyard in pots. Fairly easy maintenance. Pluck off any of the dead flowers, and if you see any dead leaves, cut those off too. Okay, I have a large dwarf lemon tree, no maintenance necessary. Coming back here to the entrance to the backyard is the other side of that large vine. Please remove any dead leaves like this guy and keep it clean. More New Guinea impatiens. With the New Guinea impatiens, please remove any dead flowers, and when you remove them, pluck off the little nub that goes with the flower to encourage new growth. What else? I have an azalea plant here, no maintenance necessary. I have a large potted dark green leaf Japanese maple in a pot. The maintenance here is that once all the leaves have dried up in the late fall and early winter, to just scrape off the leaves from the branches so new growth can come in. We have a large planter here, brick planter, against the house. The only maintenance here is to keep it clean of dead leaves, and you see dead leaves, dead branches, clip those off for any of the plants that are in the planter. I have 2 large African daisies in front. Please deadhead the spent flowers on these 2 potted plants. Okay, back to the rest of the yard. On the left, past the lemon tree, a large rack of New Guinea impatiens, keep them clean. A few more coral bells, same deal as in front. A couple of these potted plants, purple potted plants, just clip away any dead branches. There's 1 or 2 that you can see in this picture here. What else do we have back here? I think I've talked about everything else. I do have 2 large potted green leaf maple trees, Japanese maples. 1 here, 1 at the other edge of the deck. In the spring, when new growth comes out, just clip off any dead branches on top or around the plant. Same thing with the bushy Japanese maple in front of the large pine tree here. Clip off any dead branches. I have 3 large hydrangeas in the back in pots. Please remove any dead branches. Let me know if the plants are withering, and that means that they probably need more water. But basically keep them clean. Remove any dead flowers. Okay, what else? Oh, I have marigolds in pots and along the edge of the grass. Marigolds, easy. cut off the dead flowers at the base of the stem. Don't just pluck them off, otherwise ugly stem remains. What else do we have? These guys, I forget what they're called. I have about half a dozen throughout the backyard. Particularly in the spring, cut off the dead leaves at the base. They're kind of ugly, and that also helps induce new growth. Now I have 1, 2 here together, and 2 more on the opposite side of the lawn. Lantana, white lantana. They grow like a weed. They're beautiful, but they need to be contained. So cut them off at the top to keep them from growing too high, and cut them off around the edges, like now when they start to encroach on other plants in the area. More agapanthus, talked about that. We have some ferns in the backyard. Poor guys get burned easily. If you see burned stems like this one right in the front, please cut that off. And it's okay if you just chop it up and leave it on the ground, because ferns like to be composted with their own fronds. Azalea plants, azaleas, no maintenance required. This guy, no maintenance required. Okay, I have a planter box in the back with more white and red geraniums. They need to be cleaned like the ones in the front. And also what are these guys? These orange guys also need to be clipped off. Marigolds, dead flowers clipped off at the base. I have this area in here, this small patch. Pretty much keep clean. There is some alyssum. You can see it here. Once all the flowers are spent and start to turn brown, just shear off the old flowers to greenery, so to encourage new growth, like is coming up now. Okay, we have a planter box, 2 planter boxes. These are primarily vegetable gardens, no maintenance required. I have some sun patients here. They need regular care to just clean them up, pluck off dead flowers, make sure you pluck off the buds, and try to keep them looking clean. What else in the back? I have a couple of pots of calla lilies, in this case white calla lilies. Across the lawn I have several pots of black and yellow calla lilies. Please clip off any dead branches. These guys look like they're probably done for the season, so when too many of them get to be yellow or brown, just shear them off at the base, a couple inches above the base, to encourage new growth. In the back I have several hydrangeas in pots. Keep them clean, clip off dead flowers, dead branches. And let's see, what else do we have I haven't talked about? I've talked about everything here. Here are some more of those cactus plants. Some more. You're getting impatient. I have a large potted fern in the alcove in the back of the house. Every once in a while, clip off the ends that start to turn brown to keep it looking clean. We have a very large bush against the house. I think it's a camellia bush. They will just produce a lot of flowers that fall on the ground and into the planter box, so those need to be gathered up each time you come and disposed of. And finally, we have the lawn. The lawn is artificial. Now, for the lawn, you need to comb it to remove debris, starting at the far end near the redwood trees. So comb from that direction towards where I am now. Once the debris is removed, take the rake and comb it back in the opposite direction to lift the strands up so that they are a little bit more vertical, and it makes the lawn look better. The rake to do that is on the left side of the yard, and it is right there next to the lemon tree. And let's see, the only other thing is we do have a very large tree in the corner of the house as you enter the backyard. I would say no maintenance required except to gather and remove dead leaves that have fallen on the ground. That's pretty much it.